Welcome to Communication 101, Effective Speaking. In this class, we will use Gamble and Gamble's textbook, The Public Speaking Playbook. You will find in here a variety of examples. There are also online resources that you can use. So you may be wondering to yourself, why do they make me take this course? I know that most, if not all of you, are enrolled in this course because it's required for your major, not because you want to be here. So let's explore why the college and many colleges across the country require their students to take an effective speaking course. We know that good communication skills are one of the most highly prized skills that any employer is looking for. And while this course does focus on public speaking, many of the principles you will learn will apply to various speaking events or communication exchanges, even if it's just between you and another person. So becoming a more effective speaker can help you in your personal life, your career, and even society at large. So let's take a closer look at that. You may wonder, how is this personally going to benefit me? Well, this gives you an opportunity to explore where you stand on topics. You'll have the ability to choose your own topics. You're also going to need to consider other people's needs and concerns and be able to be a listener or an audience member so that you'll have an opportunity to see what you need as a listener when someone's delivering a message. It encourages creative self-expression. You can research different things. You may learn different things. Perhaps you're going to choose a topic that maybe you don't know a lot about, but you've always been interested in it. And this class will allow you to do that. It can also help you build confidence. Many people do not feel like they're confident speakers, and that's okay. If you're one of those people, you are in very good company. But most of my students say at the end of the course, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and I'm perfectly happy with that answer. You'll be able to learn tools and skills that you'll be able to apply in the future. So how might this benefit your career? Prospective employers favor people who have public speaking abilities and who have good communication skills. How far you advance in your career may depend on how capable you are at communicating your knowledge and ideas clearly and effectively. This is going to be important whether you are speaking to a group of people or if you are just speaking one-on-one. Perhaps you're interested in going into nursing. There'll be many occasions where you're going to need to speak with your patient or speak with family members of your patient. Being able to effectively communicate in those situations is very important. You can also think about how people gain impressions of you. We may all complain and moan and groan that we should not judge a book by its cover, and I certainly agree with that. But we know that we all do it, and for anyone to say otherwise would be disingenuous. So we do know that we want to make sure that we make a good first impression, and there are some skills you can pick up in this course that can help with that. So finally, how can this course benefit or how is becoming a better speaker help society? Well, developing public speaking skills will make you a better citizen. You know, our country was founded on the ability to speak and be articulate. Long before the days of social media, people had to communicate, and the only way to communicate was through face-to-face interaction or talking to a crowd. And so these ideas that we have within our democracy have a foundation in the ideas of being able to communicate your message, to be able to speak openly and honestly, how to listen. You know, most speaking or most communication, the most important part is listening. And we get so tied up in being able to say what we want to say that we forget that listening is often and usually more important of a skill. Understanding the context of public speaking is going to help you be able to adapt your message. I impress upon all students that the most important part, the most important component of any speech is not the speaker, it's the audience. And as a speaker, your responsibility is to form a message that your audience is going to be able to receive. If your audience can't receive your message, then you have not effectively communicated. So skilled public speakers, they understand that there's a communication process. They kind of can picture the parts that are working together, and they're always considering their audience's expectations. So what are the parts of the communication process? The way that we look at communication now is something called a transactional model. We have a source. The source is the speaker. We have receivers. The receivers are the people doing the listening. This is true in any communication event. Then we have the message. Some of that is verbal, the words we speak. A lot of that is nonverbal, those things that maybe are not words or are tied with our words, such as our volume or our tone of voice. The channel in which a message is conveyed. Are you face to face? Are you on the phone? Are you talking into a microphone and doing a lecture this way? Noise is all the things that go into interfering with that message, and this means much, much more than just a loud noise. There's also psychological noise, environmental noise, and things that just get in the way of a message being received. We always need to think of the context. What is the cultural situation? What is the nature of the people who are interacting? And finally, there's always feedback, some response that the speaker gets back from the receiver. Maybe the speaker then sends something else out, the receiver sends something back. And so these 7 parts that you see listed here are constantly working together continuously throughout any communication event. And we'll get into more detail about that in a few weeks when we talk about delivery. So what we need to do is picture these parts working together. All of these parts are important. One is not more or less important than another. They are interconnected. And the effects of communication cannot be erased. You know, once a word is spoken, once something is said, you can't just take that back. The source and the receiver's field of experience, your background, whatever you bring with you, influence your attitudes towards any kind of a speaking event. And so understanding that is an important part of the process of becoming an effective speaker. Now we want to try to picture the parts all working together. Your success as a source or as a speaker depends on your ability to, 1, establish common ground with your receivers, encode or formulate a message effectively. That's something we'll talk a lot about. This is why outlining a speech is so important. Adapting to cultural and situational differences. One of the best examples I give is that imagine you're talking to a young child and they said, "Why is the sky blue?" Well, you probably wouldn't get into a big scientific analysis of that. You'd come up with something that would be appropriate to that 5-year-old audience. You want to try to alleviate the effects of noise. Anything you can do in your speech to help the audience receive the message better. You can't control everything. You can't tell somebody who's having a bad day to stop having a bad day, but there are some things you can do to alleviate noise. And finally, understand and respond to the reactions of those with whom you're interacting. Pick up on that feedback. You know, when I'm standing in front of a class talking, I know when it's 5 minutes before class is going to end because everybody's starting to put their stuff away. I'm clearly getting the feedback that the audience is sending to me. Always consider the audience expectations. They are the most important part of any speech. Receivers or audience members usually have higher expectations for public speakers than they do for other communicators. Public speaking is certainly a much more formal type of speaking event. So you need to polish, formalize, build on basic conversational skills. That's an important word, conversational skills. Many students think they need to memorize everything, and that's not what you need to do. You're going to have a very clear plan, but you're going to deliver the speech extemporaneously. That means you could deliver that same speech 10 times, and your words may be slightly different, but the overall message will not change. So to reach your goal of being an effective speaker, you need to ask, how does your speech connect to the audience's interests, their needs, and their knowledge? You may have a topic that you feel very passionate about, and I say go for it. But if it's a topic that probably a lot of other people may not have that same level of interest, you have a very important job to figure out how are you going to adapt that message so that it is well received by the audience. I've learned about a lot of interesting things that I never thought that I would want to learn about by listening to student speeches. All right, so let's summarize this. 1, becoming a more effective speaker can help you in your personal life, your career, and within society. We know that communication is a complex process. It involves a speaker, receiver, message, channel, the context. And as a speaker, Your job is to understand the process of communication and implement strategies to more effectively communicate your message.